then to the question of the credit growth and I think the exchange rate that you were alluding to. I think what the market is looking for is a consistent set of market policies that are then reflected in the exchange rate regime. When it comes to the fund's view on this, and I think the fund has been very clear, in all fairness, I think it has been echoed by the authorities. The view is still that China needs to move toward a flexible exchange rate system over the next few years. The question is, how do you get there from where you are today in a way that is least disruptive? We recognize that China has made progress in terms of liberalizing the exchange rate system. It is now referencing a basket. There is some ambiguity, but I think in terms of its own communication policy, it has done a lot over the last 6 months or so, or maybe 8 months, in trying to better explain what it is that China is doing. So I think they are on the right track. Again, this is never an easy exercise, and the problem with China is, it has never been done for the economy as highly integrated into the global economy as large as it is. Smaller countries can get away with a lot of things nobody would notice in the chain of command of China. That's very, very, very difficult. So I think it is clear where China was yesterday. It is clear where China wants to be tomorrow, and again, that is what we are advocating as well. It has made progress in terms of moving toward a more flexible system. It has improved a lot. It has learned also. I think when I have to give China a little bit of credit, yes, mistakes were made. But one thing that, maybe one thing aside, the farther you're away from this part of the world, the more people before thought China was perfect and something now happened. People now have questions about the ability of the government to manage the economy. I think if you're in this part of the world, especially if you're in China, the Chinese would have told you, we never thought that we're perfect. By the way, our whole notion of crossing the river by touching means we know we want to go, but we don't really know always how do we get there. Sometimes we make a step forward and backward. The problem now is because of the linkages to the global financial system, any misstep that before nobody would have noticed outside of China is now amplified and then has a spillback. And I think that is probably the biggest challenge. How do you do it now in this new environment, which I think in all fairness, China only learned about a year ago the implications of its policies through the global financial system and then the spillbacks that
Mr. Zhu, you can say either yes or no. What you say. You don't have to elaborate what he just said.
Yeah, so...
yes, huh?
I still need to elaborate. The corporate debt, I think it's fair to say that the alarming sign didn't come out only 2 years. Actually, it started rising in 2012. So fair to say that China being labeled as the high risk, particularly when you think about the funding risk or debt problem, in the last 4 or 5 years. If you put in the global perspective, China had already seen a crisis, say 2 or 3 years ago, right? But so far it didn't happen. So there are a bunch of reasons that, basically China-specific buffers or policy, which probably continue to delay this issue. And SOE, actually, the government's full control, that's one of the arguments. And in addition to that, high saving rates and high, very ample liquidity and the fiscal space from the government side and FS reserves. So these are all arguments that China may behave different and the situation might be different. But on the other side, what we want to raise concern is that it probably can keep a delay, but the risk is continue to be there. True that SOE, let me focus on the SOE side issue, that the government control a lot of assets, and also they probably will see contingent liability take over from the SOE sectors. But you need a transparent agenda to convince the market that truly the serious measures have been taken. Let me take another example. local government debt was a major concern in the market 3 years ago. It's no longer a big concern in the market because the Chinese government, they announced serious measures. One is that the fiscal reform basically said no more SPV funding for local governments. We bring you to the budget, allowing you to issue municipal bonds, but the quota is controlled by Beijing. That slowed down the new increase in the local government debt. At the same time, they also came up with a very large-scale local government debt swap program, basically repaying the existing debt with much longer maturity and low interest new bonds. So this is the agenda announced by market. With that issue on the side, what the market feels frustrated is that the government never come up with a concrete, implementable, or credible agenda. So that's where the confusion. We hit the China summit 2 weeks ago. I think the consensus when they are going to address this issue seriously, and whether they are going to be some mistake we have seen the last 1 or 2 years. So that's a big question. The currency, shorter. My recommendation, Chinese government has been making the progress in the last 3-4 months in terms of the new exchange regime. Stick to that new regime. Despite, I'll say, probably global currency may see high volatility. It's not easy to build up the credibility in the regime. If you have some, if you deviate from this regime, again, giving a clear guideline, say, where the thing is going, that will cause another round of panic. And the latest regime actually building itself has already some flexibility. Basically allow, at least prevent the CNY to repeat the mistake in 2014 and 2015. Basically, at that time, the currency was was pegged to the US dollar, and when the dollar was getting stronger, it appreciated too much, and that caused a lot of trouble. That triggered this reform we have seen in the last 12 months. So now the new regime, our personal view is that it's better than the old regime. So stick to that. I mean not repeat the same mistake.
Okay, thank you, Kawai-san.
Okay, just briefly on the issue of low trade growth relative to GDP growth. Many papers, including the IMF paper, say that there are long-term factors, including like a saturation of technological development, IT, logistics. Support, logistical development, and also supply chains. And as Mr. Shipke said, after the global financial crisis, China's trade structure has changed significantly. China's processing trade has shrunken very fast, and China may no longer be playing the role of the global factory in the sense of importing intermediate products, assembling, and then exporting. And from that perspective, trade has shrunken. It's the biggest trading nation. The question is whether this is going to be permanent. This relative trade stagnation is going to continue. There are many other factors that could lead to trade expansion. More FTAs could be reduction of tariff barriers would continue. More foreign direct investment will continue to support trade and supply chains. Developing countries have yet to join supply chains. Asia is an exception, where emerging countries have joined the supply chains. But there are so many emerging and developing countries that have yet to join supply chains. So personally, I don't think this is a permanent phenomenon.
많이 지났는데 그래도 질문 혹시 있으시면 한두 개 받을 수 있을 것 같은데 질문이 없으신죠?